Alafu Kilifi hapa majirani tu yupo gavana mstahiki Mung'aro. Alafu mbele pale gavana ya kule nilikozaliwa, migeni makofi. Alafu pale kuna kingunge anaitwa Mheshimiwa Seneta Munga Tana, si mnamfahamu? Uzuri wa Tana River ni kwamba ukija hapa alafu uondoke mji huu kabla hujakula mamba, basi una tatizo fulani. Jitahidini tafadhali, na nasikia sijui kwa nini wanasema ati mamba analiwa kuanzia mkiani ndio uende kwenye kichwa, wakati samaki tunajua kumbomoa kutoka kichwani kwenda mkiani. Inakuwaje? Kuna fumbo gani hapo jamani? Ati ni nyama laini zaidi? Haya, sasa tumeshamaliza na hayo. Pia ni watambue wabunge na viongozi wa eneo hili. Galole, mbunge wa Galole Buya Posta yuko wapi? Anyoshe mkono tu jamani, awapungie watu mkono. Mheshimiwa Buya, asante. Makofi kwake. Yupo wa Garseni, pigeni makofi. Yupo Wabura, Mheshimiwa Ado. Nasikia pia mama wetu women rep yupo karibu hapa, ambaye anaitwa Amina Dika. Yuko wapi? Pigeni makofi mahali popote yupo. Ma MCA wa eneo hili au county hii, kama uko hapa tafadhali simameni, pungeni mkono mahali mlipo. Wapigeni makofi waheshimiwa hao. Alafu pia naambiwa kuna CCs wa hapa wapo na chief officers mpo. Safi, wapigeni makofi. Hao ndio waheshimiwa wenyeji bwana. Ni muhimu tuwapungie mkono kidogo. Jamani, ili ni tuendelee sasa, nampa fursa kaka Zai ili aanzishe sehemu hii, lakini kabla hilo zoezi, kwa heshima waheshimiwa, hawa magavana hawapaswi kukaa pale juu wanapaswa kukaa na wananchi hapa chini. Na nyie pia mkae na wananchi hapa chini. Mnaonaje kwa heshima tu kama mkisogea kidogo mkae hapa, wale mabingwa pale juu wateremke waje wakae hapa, alafu tuendelee, ndio pale panelists wakae pale juu. Kwa heshima mnaomba mkae hapa na wengine pale popote, na mwenyeji na naibu wake, alafu hao wengine mnaweza kukaa, seneta na wale magavana wengine. Safi, safi. Wapigeni makofi waheshimiwa. Unajua nyinyi mnanipa kazi ngumu sana. Mnanipa kazi kumwambia gamba anatoka pale juu njoo hapa chini. Aisee, mnanipa kibarua kizito sana, lakini si neno. Na imani kwamba nimejaribu. Haya ndugu Zai, uko wapi? Zai, asante sana. Mpigeni kigongo huyu CEO wa Jumuiya ya Kaunti za Pwani. Makofi.
Tana River oye, tusalimiane Tana River. Hayawi. Ni kweli. Jina langu naitwa Emmanuel Nzai. Mimi ndio mkurugenzi CEO wa Jumuiya ya Kaunti za Pwani. Nina furaha sana kwa siku ya hii ya leo. This is the 4th Jumuiya Agribusiness and Blue Economy Investment Conference. Mtatusamehe tunajaribu kuchanganya Kiswahili na Kizungu, na tumeleta mtaalamu wa Kiswahili hapa, hakuna mwingine, ni Nuhu Bakari. Tumpigie makofi Nuhu Bakari. Sasa tutajaribu ndugu, tutachanganya kwa sababu in this place there is a mix of many people who we have invited. But more important, this is an investment conference, so we'll get to talk about investments. And so we are very privileged for this moment. Your Excellency Governors, Chairman Gideon Mung'aro, the Governor of Kilifi, Senator of this place, we have a quorum for us to dispense this business. The Governor of Lamu is on his way, and I believe all the 6 counties are represented here in one or the other. It's been a journey for us to be where we are. We started the first investment conference in 2018. It was a pre-conference to the Sustainable Blue Economy that was hosted in Mombasa. The second one was hosted in Malindi, Kilifi County. That was in 2019. The third one was hosted in Diani, Kwale County. And the fourth one is hosted in Hola, Tana River. We will have a fifth, a sixth, and probably a thousandth. But on this fourth one, we're in Tana River, and we want to really thank you, the governor, and the people of Tana River for hosting us. The program has to shift a bit. We were hoping to start at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock thereabouts. So we've lost quite some hours. On my end, my job will be to really fast track this program. Most of you have probably your programs have been sent to you in many different ways. But today's program essentially is to give context to our theme of this year. We have a few slides which we'll put forward. If you can start those off, please. If you could put those slides. And in this program for the next 3 days, we'll be having a discussion on innovative investments in blue economy urbanization and regeneration transformation. Now, that is very, very heavy, but for most of you who are investors out here, the policymakers who are out here, the national government, the county government, and all these participants, this is a conversation which is so that we can move to the next session, because there's a few people who we kept them waiting, and they need to be traveling, some of them today, and somehow by the end of the day or tomorrow we'll be able to catch up with this program. So if you could go to the slide, please. I guess the team is not ready. Okay, we'll work with what we have. Okay, so the theme of this year and the program basically is for us to talk about agribusiness. It's for us to talk about the blue economy. So in this program, as we have it today, we'll be having some few speakers who will be bringing them forward for them to give some keynote remarks. And at this point, I would want to bring forward some of the few speakers who are here. Some of them are online, and we'll get started off with that. So we have Ahmed Farah of Trademark East Africa is online. We have Stephen Masha is online. We have Mr. Jeremy Awori is online, and we have one more person who is online. But we'll get to that. We want to bring in the ones who are here. We start with Lisa of TBI. Please come forward. Lisa comes from the Tony Blair Institute. And as she comes forward, we also want to bring in Michael Chitavi. Dr. Michael Chitavi, please come forward. The MD of EcoBank, Samuel Odhiambo. No, that's okay. You sit there. Okay, that's okay. And so without much ado, we want to start this conversation with Lisa of the Tony Blair Institute. The Tony Blair Institute has been responsible for the Presidential Delivery Unit formations. We have just partnered with them as a region where they will support the counties. They've been responsible in supporting each of the 6 counties in packaging their investment projects. So the investment projects that you will hear in the next 2 days coming in from the counties have been scrutinized for them to be ready for investors, ready for conversations, and ready for possible transaction in terms of feasibility studies, or even going into implementation from the private sector. And so without much further ado, Lisa, please come forward. I know time is not on your side, so please talk to the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Morning or afternoon. Your Excellency Governor Godana, Tana River County, Your Excellency Governor Timami, Lamu County, Your Excellency Governor Mungaro, Kilifi County, Your Excellency Governor Chani, Kwale County, Your Excellency Governor Mwadime, Taita Taveta County, and Your Excellency Deputy Governor Loka, Tana River County. Members of the national and county government, representatives of the diplomatic corps, investors across private, public, development, and non-profit partners, academic and research sectors, and other key stakeholders, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Lisa Karanja, and I'm the country director for Kenya at the Tony Blair Institute. The Tony Blair Institute was formed by Honorable Tony Blair, Prime Minister, when he went into government and realized that implementation was required in addition to very positive strategies. And he started the first Prime Minister's Delivery Unit. We now work in a number of countries around the world at the invitation of the head of state, including 18 in Africa, supporting delivery of the government's priorities. It gives me great pleasure to be part of this conference today. And let me first start by appreciating all of your presence here today and the demonstration of the commitment to play a critical part in the economic transformation agenda of the coastal region. I want to specifically thank His Excellency Godana for the legislating its adoption requires a comprehensive legislative framework, the development of the requisite authorities, the requisite infrastructure, and the requisite skills, and stakeholders working together with multiple user resources. Our institute can play a role in supporting governments, in changing systems, and ensuring policies and programs are well implemented, including in social sectors such as education, water, roads, and electricity. TBI is pleased to have partnered with Jumuiya ya Kaunti za Pwani to provide not just financial sponsorship, but also technical support to ensure a successful conference. We support government across economic and digital transformation priorities by developing strategies, strengthening policies, and coordinating delivery with technology as a cross-cutting enabler. At the head of state level, we are working closely with Economic Transformation Secretariat to ensure the implementation of presidential priorities. We work in key sectors such as agriculture, health, ICT, and as you can see at the devolved government level, in areas such as improvements to service delivery units and, as in this case, investment. So finally, allow me to reiterate TBI's continued commitment to support the coastal region economic transformation agenda in collaboration with you, national and county government leaders. I wish you a productive 3 days and a fruitful event.
Them out to the investors, and we really look forward to your support in this. So thank you so much. This point I want to invite my very good friend, Dr. Michael Chitavi. Dr. Michael Chitavi is a professor at the Citadel in South Carolina. He is one of the old Wapwani diaspora members. So he's here to represent the Wapwani diaspora, but more important, the professionals in this region and much of their thinking in terms of innovative investments from the region and out to the world. Professor Chitavi.
Tana River oye! Tana River viva! Tana River viva! Mimi kwa majina kama mmesikia naitwa Chitavi, assistant professor, yani ni mwalimu, na kwetu ni hapa Kilifi. Lakini kabla sijaongea, wacha nipeane shukrani. Shukrani za kwanza kwa wanaserikali wa CSC, MCS wetu, wajumbe, mama rep, governor na senator. Asanteni, and all protocols observed kisheria. Hai, sasa turudi kwa story yangu. na nimetoka wapi na ikuaje, nasemekana kuna diaspora, mambo gani haya? Mimi kwetu ni Kilifi na nimesomea Kilifi, lakini naishi diaspora. Zai ni rafiki yangu na ni jamaa mmoja ambaye huwa na ndoto nyingi. Kama mmeijenga, mmeiona, mmeanza kuiona. Lakini hata hivyo, jumuiya bado ni mtoto mchanga sana. Very young. So it's a very young organization. Na nafikiri ni mtoto wetu sote. Wananchi, serikali, professionals, vile vile mtoto lazima siapewe maziwa, ama mwasemaje? Lazima apewe maziwa, si ndio? Si ndio? Kwa hivyo tumtunze, tumfanye akue, na nafikiri wakati huu nitasema basi huyo mtoto naomba mlete pia kule USA tuje tumuone. Sasa nataka nimkaribishe, diaspora inawangoja USA. Jabeic nimesikia mnaifanya kila county, kila mahali. Sasa mkurugenzi, nafikiri pia tuwekee slot moja mje mfanye Jabeic kule diaspora. Mimi nimewawekea meza na chapati za Amerika na mahamri, mje tusherekee, tufanye hii sherehe ya diaspora. Sisi jambo la pili nataka nigusie, alafu na la tatu nifunge niondoke, maanake wakati ni mwingi. Nilikuwa nataka kuongea jambo la pili la kuhusu wanafunzi, maanake profesa ni mwanafunzi. Sasa ningeomba wanafunzi, kuna wanafunzi hapa? Wanafunzi oye! Wanafunzi oye! Sasa wanafunzi, mwalimu ni mimi, ningependa wanafunzi pia mje kule usome kule. Inaonaje kama tungechukua mwanafunzi mmoja mmoja kwa hizi kaunti 6, nije nimfundishe kule? Itakuwa ni vibaya? Itakuwa ni makosa? Ni mambo ya pesa, ni mambo ya naita capital, lakini hizi investments wanazotaja hapa ni kubwa mno, zile nzito. Kama ni lori ingekuwa ni trailer 3, SGR zingekuwa ni 20, ndege ingekuwa ile na gorofa. Kwa hivyo hizi investments tuzifanye, tuko tayari, tuongea zaidi kesho. Kama kuna hali ya capital, benki ziko hapa. Mkija kule USA kuna masoko. Unaona soko la samaki? Kule kuna masoko ya pesa. Hapa najua mnafuliza na mko na M-Pesa, sisi hatuna fuliza kule. Na juzi nisikia mmepata Hustler Fund, na mimi nimechukua namba yangu ya simu hapa, nikitoka hapa nitabonyeza 254. Lakini kule pia kuna masoko, na mje tuangalie mikakati, tuone vile tutaingia yale masoko, tutafute. Kule ni 001, Amerika ni 001, hapa ni 254. Kwa hivyo tufanye kazi pamoja. Kwa hivyo nitamalizia hapo, asanteni sana na mbarikiwe.
Thank you, Dr. Michael Chitavi. You know, he's not been speaking Swahili for many years, so he has to do this in Swahili. But in summary, what he's saying is, he's offering to bring in university students from Jumuiya County za Pwani, 1 from each county. Those are 6 to go to South Carolina at the University of Citadel. So that's an offer to us and to the governors, and we thank you for that. He's also offering for Jumuiya County za Pwani very much for that. Now, I want to move this very, very quickly. We have a few of our speakers online. We'll have Samuel from the MD of EcoBank speak. In sequence from there, we'll go to Mr. Stephen Marsha, the controller of budget, who is online. So team, if you could be ready on that, in that sequence. Then we'll go to Mark Barash of Green World Ventures, Kamau Gachigi, and then we'll go to Ahmed Farah of the Trademark East Africa. In that order, please. So without much further ado, our prime sponsor is EcoBank. This time we went very, very unique. We realized we've had the traditional banks, and it's okay because everyone goes to the traditional bank or KCB Cooperative Absa Bank, and all that. This time we decided to venture into these other banks and see what they are really doing. What opportunities do they have for us? Because we're in the market. So we'll do business with any bank, but the bank which comes in to bring us some of the deals that will work for us. So my friend Samuel, what deals do you have for us?
Thank you, Emmanuel. I wanted to do this in Swahili, but I've heard CEO Emmanuel saying people speaking in Swahili today are people who have not been speaking in Swahili every day. But because I've been speaking in Swahili every day, so I'm going to speak in English. I would have loved to speak in Swahili because I also see my governor. I'm a voter at Zewalangombe in Kisauni constituency, and I voted there. Don't ask me how, but I have a governor and I voted. So that must be surprising to His Excellency Governor Ngaro that he's actually my governor. So I am proud to and have the privilege to speak when my resident governor is listening. I would have loved to speak when the governor in the country where I have voted since I became a voter for the first time, and I voted the last time is around. So I hope Governor Abdul Swamad Nasser will at some point be here. Having been allowed, therefore, to use this language, Your Excellencies, our host governor, His Excellency Dado Kodana, Your Excellencies, Governor Gideon Mungaro, Governor Modime, and His Excellencies in absentia, all the governors of Jumia of Pwani, several development partners who are here, my fellow private sector leaders, CEO and the entire staff for the Secretariat, distinguished ladies, all delegate presence, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol staff, a good day and a good afternoon to you. I would almost say a good morning because it was meant to be read at 9 a.m. in the morning. So if it's not too late, because we can extend the day, as well, a good morning to everyone. I am greatly honored to address you at this key and highly impactful conference that has been designed to take forward the national conversations on innovation, innovative investments in the blue economy, urbanization, and revenue transformation. As I'll be speaking, I correctly understand that the concept of the blue economy, to explain that so that if there's a part I omit, then it's omitted not because I do not think much of it, but I omitted it because in my definition it did not feature, but then it can always be added back. It is a most appropriate theme for our country, for it comes at a time when the nation is exploring new ways of injecting additional momentum in the economy to boost its growth and in the process create jobs. So out of this conference and out of these discussions and this idea shared, then I hope we will be on the path to transforming Kenya as a country from the GDP of $100 billion to something much higher. As I speak here and I also reflect on the events at the national platform, I would wish them to say that His Excellency the President of Kenya, Dr. William Ruto, has made a higher clarion call to the nation for inclusive economic empowerment and development. And in the clarion call from the presidency, we prioritize MSMEs, agriculture, digital and creative economy, housing and healthcare as cornerstone of this economic equality, what we all comfortably call bottom-up economics. Blue economy investment in the blue concept, when it works, we'll always find room and we'll always find a cornerstone and a pillar in one of those that I have said. It's also commendable still looking at the events at the national level that we've noted that government has created special ministries. The government has created National Presidential Economic Council, and recently the government has created National Investment Council as organs through which members of the private sector and indeed all interested stakeholders for the welfare of these nations can reach out and collaborate with the national government. It's therefore very exciting that today the second level of governance in this country, the devolved government, and in particular the devolved government of the population of coast region, have hosted this conference to bring us together to the grassroots so that our ideas can be discussed. And more importantly, if those ideas can be executed at this social point, that's the grassroots where they're most relevant and indeed where they may be most beneficial. Before I go to fireworks, I will introduce, I present an organization that works in the conference that we're talking about today. EcoBank has worked with various levels of public institutions based on our founding mission and vision, which was to create economic integration in Africa and support economic empowerment of communities in Africa. We are proud to say we are one of the organizations founded in 1983, not with a vision of to make profit and not with a vision of to acquire market share, but with a vision and a mission to create economic integration in Africa and to support economic empowerment of communities in Africa. We remain to live that vision today, and while the journey of that mission began in some tiny township, the EcoBank was not founded in an investment conference in a capital city like London or Nairobi. It was founded under coconut trees in the coastal city of Lome, Togo, when few gentlemen sat down and said they want to integrate and empower Africa. That remains our poster, vision, and pride today. And in the walking that journey, we are today serving in 34 countries in Africa. We have about 40 million customers, and we stand and own the privileged position of that being the African bank that is present most by geographical presence in any Black African countries. That pride is what brings me here to sit under this tent. Hopefully, I would have loved to be under a coconut tree somewhere along River Tana, so that we can find a vision that is carried to the oceans by passion of the river which never ends, and then taken to the skies by the waters of the oceans which will always flow up, and then which will come back to us as purified water to drink and live through. For those who come from the Bible, you hear the Israelites used to say, Jesus is the river of life, and they said Jordan is the river of life. So when you are next to a river, then you know you are next to life. And so when we talk about blue economy, then we are talking about life. To share with you a similar vision founded in 1983 under a tree in a small town on the coastal city of Lome that has been a great success. I will not take you back, but just to mention, as recently as from the year 2020, we as EcoBank Group have invested US dollars 1.3 billion. And I want to be understood correctly. I'm talking about US dollars, and I'm talking about 1.3 billion in select countries in Africa, of which Kenya has been one. And I want to say that our investment in Kenya has also been in the same period of time, hundreds of millions of dollars. These investments, besides Kenya, have been in one of the most hardship countries in the continent, Congo DRC, Congo Brazzaville, Malawi, Ghana, and the rest. All these countries share some common things with us. They are all developing countries. They are all wanting infrastructure. They are all focused on empowering and promoting their communities around blue economy, around public infrastructure. The way we have been working as Home mainly been through public-private partnerships programs, and these have been directed towards public infrastructure, affordable housing, agribusiness, and promotion of trade, more specifically promotion of export trade out of Africa. I will pause in respect as the Honorable His Excellency Governor Imani takes his seat, and then I will continue. Thank you. I will continue with the permission of the event organizer. His Excellency has been directed towards public transport infrastructure, And of that investment I talk about, the one we made in Kenya was in public transport infrastructure. But we are also keen locally and as a group working on affordable housing, agribusiness, and promotion of trade. And the promotion of trade, we are particularly keen on developing the export potential of Africa. And for this matter, now we're talking about the export potential of Kenya. How then do we do and do we put in place such massive investment? Most of the time, when we hear investments of $1 billion plus, it tends to be country to country, World Bank countries, and bilateral between the nations. We leverage on our strong Pan-African balance sheet in executing this investment. And at the same time, we work in association with our partners and shareholders. Some of the shareholders we have are the strongest and the largest institutions in the world, like Qatar National Bank, an institution which has invested over $300 billion in assets across the world. In leveraging on our strong Pan-African balance sheet, in 2019 we raised green bond of about $400 million, which we continue to invest in several countries in low-cost housing and healthcare projects. And it will be my love at some point that in the coastal region we find healthcare opportunities, we find low-cost opportunities, we find sustainable agribusiness opportunities where then these resources abundantly available in our group can come to create impactful investments. There are several points of economic interest which today I could talk about, but I will be ending by just talking about three which resonates and closer home to the blue economy and investment concepts. I will talk about water resources management, and I will talk in these three, not because of their potential to contribute to the GDP and to take us in the space of a developed nation. All that we define citizens' empowerment, enabling sustainable development, if they don't translate into Kenya being moved from middle income country to a developed first world country, would not have achieved our goal. When I talk about water resources management, I want to say that as providers of private sector financing, we look forward to working with national government and county government through public-private sector partnership schemes to manage, conserve, and economically exploit in a sustainable way the plenty of water we have. I am reliably told that the national government and the devolved county governments are losing good on several dams, which will help us tap and manage the water in our ecosystem. And I would want to say that with the private sector, the providers of that equity are keen to work with this. There is always a problem when we have societies which fight drought and also fight flooding all at the same time. When this is solved, Your Excellency's governors, I know we will find water for consumer households, and I know we will find water for industries, and we will find water for agriculture. Just to wind up, thank you. Just to wind up, we are aware the national government has gotten through partnership with the government of Korea, Kenya shillings 120 billion to set up industrial units in the devolved countries. I would want to speak our interest to give a partner to the private sector and the several MSMEs who will be suppliers and co-participants in these industrial zones when we are set up. So I'm looking to partnering with the Jumia County and the national government. Out to us, we will share our Pan-African vision and to use that to support the development. I wish everyone a good time in this river and coastal township. And as we go back, now I'm talking about as a resident of Coast County. We love you to enjoy our region. We love all the guests who don't come from here to have the best time possible. May God bless you all, and may you live the dreams and the vision that we will create today. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Thank you, EcoBank. We give them another round of clap, please. I want to recognize the presence of the Governor of Lamu County, His Excellency Timami. Karibu sana. Karibu sana. We now have 4 governors. We have Deputy Governor, Senator, and we're doing good. At this point, I want to shift a bit. We just heard from the bank, and these conversations about money and banks could be very boring, they only feel good when you actually withdraw the money from the account, or somehow a check is written to you. But it's these conversations like this, which boring as they may seem, it's again for the investors, the policymakers, the CC finance who listen very, very careful, because it is not fun to write those proposals and actually meet the requirements of financing a project. So I'm really, really happy with the conversations with EcoBank. They have an exhibition there. They will be here for the next 2 days to engage. Let's hear what they have done out in Tana River. And it's been an exciting 24 hours so far. And I hope it's going to be more exciting in the next few days. So karibu so much. So I want to shift to one of our very good friend here, Stephen Masha, who is online. Stephen Masha is the Deputy Controller of Budget. Stephen Masha, I see him looking good in his office. Stephen, please come forward. Let's hear from you. The counties draw their budgets from the National Treasury, and the Controller of Budget mostly has to approve their budget and actually approve the payments that have to be made. They're the ones who come in, look at your books to say, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong. At this point in this conversation, we're looking, how do counties go out there and get investments? How do they build this relationship with EcoBank and finance a Galana Kulalu that we have it on our own? Or a fish processing plant? And all these value chains that we're talking about in the blue economy. So Stephen Masha, over to you for your remarks, please.
Thank you, Zai. Thank you, Manuel. The host governor, His Excellency Jajo, His Excellency Governor Mungaro of Kilifi, His Excellency Governor Mwadime from Taita Taveta, His Excellency Governor Timami from Lamu, Senator Mungatana, all the MPs present, the honorable members of the county assemblies, all invited guests, good afternoon. I come from the Office of the Controller of Budget, and I will speak from our perspective. And I will start this from our vision and our mandate, where we are mandated to oversee the implementation of budgets of both the national and county governments. In our role, we aspire to ensure that all the public funds are utilized prudently. As we do this, we are looking forward to seeing an acceleration of human progress, which should be anchored and can only happen if we all transform ourselves into a thinking and innovative community. I was particularly thrilled when I saw the word innovation, because that is really the focus of all human progress. If you look at human progress over time, it cannot be attained without innovation. It reminds me of my primary school days where we learned about the Shadoof irrigation method in Egypt, which has been transformed into new technologies up to this point. So from our mandate, as we discharge our duties overseeing the implementation of these budgets, we aim to accelerate human progress in many aspects and spheres. It is derived from at the global stage from the Sustainable Development Goals, and I saw from the communication that you've invited partners who represent the SDGs, which were adopted by the United Nations in 2015. Of course, this is a shared blueprint that will provide prosperity for our people across the planet and from now and into the future. Back at home, looking at what we aspire under Vision 2030, and I'm glad Emmanuel shares the CEO of Jumuiya County of Pwani has had in his background, he has worked at the Kenya Vision 2030 Secretariat. And the aim basically here is to transform the country into a newly industrializing and middle-income country where people enjoy a high quality of life within our country. Looking at that background as a whole, then in the transformation of our governance in 2010, we said let us adopt a devolved system of governance. resources were devolved to the county government. So the counties, 47 in number, are funded largely by revenue that is raised nationally. And specifically for the 6 counties represented by the Jumuiya ya County za Pwani, or the members of Jumuiya ya County za Pwani, I could, from our records, I can confidently say that over the last 10 years, they have received over 400 billion Kenya shillings. This is not small money. It's huge money that can be applied to the development of our people through innovative ways of doing business. On the own revenue generation front, another area that gives itself and lends itself into innovative approaches that can result into better revenue. The 6 counties have a potential of raising up to 15.5 billion shillings. This is based on a report that was recently released by the Commission on Revenue Allocation, and in a study that was conducted by Alma Economics. There is that huge potential. So as we look at innovation, look at innovative ways of doing business, there's an opportunity for us. What are the innovative ways of raising revenue? What are the innovative ways of applying the resources for the benefit of our people? The Global Investment Fund defines innovation as any solution that has the potential to improve the lives of poor people more effectively than existing approaches. Sometimes when we talk about innovation, we look at big and huge ideas, but is any approach that can result into effective products, the policy practices, business models, operational or production processes. There are various areas where innovation can be applied to receive better results. And it reminds me of an example of, if I pick an example of, say, a 5-kilogram bar, iron bar. If you picked a 5-kilogram bar of iron or any metal, you took it to, say, Nairobi's Gikomba market, the value of the 5 kilogram is probably only a wheelbarrow. They can transform it into a wheelbarrow, that is the value they can add. But if you take the same iron bar down to, say, Cape Town in South Africa, it is for us to be able to look at a measurement of the impact of these innovations. What impact have these innovations brought to us? That is a question that I would like to pose. Because where there is no evidence, innovations sometimes tend to drop along the way. So my view is there's need for us to look at ways of assessing the impact of these innovations that we can talk about. Another area that I would like to suggest to all of us is an area where we need to develop excellent working relationship, a partnership with colleagues, a partnership with leading education institutions, a partnership with think tanks and professionals. I've heard the introductions and the remarks that have been made by one of the professors from the US. There is a potential, an opportunity that we can partner with these academic institutions for us, either at Jabeic level, Jumuiya level, or even individual counties. We can be able to partner to ensure that we can unleash the potential. The former UK Prime Minister, Liz Truss, described the goal of international development as being to unleash the power of people and counties to take control of their own future. So basically, at a budgetary point of view, counties of Mombasa, Kwale, Kilifi, Tana River, Lamu, and Taita Taveta have a combined GDP that represents 10% of the country's GDP. So that's a huge amount. 10% of the country's GDP, based on a 2019 report, it indicates that 10% of the country's about 10% of the country's GDP is based on the coastal counties. The blue economy alone has the potential of 44 billion shillings, which is about, again, 1% of the country's GDP. And therefore, there's immense opportunity running from maritime transport systems. What innovations can we bring in the maritime transport system? The ports, there are ports. If we talk about ports, there's Vanga, Shimoni. We talk about Kilifi, Malindi, and many others. That's an opportunity. We talk about tourism. The coastal counties are very rich. in tourism. And as we go along and we talk about innovation, there are new ways of doing tourism. Of course, many people talk about the beach tourism, but there are other forms of tourism that can develop some niches, like safari tourism, cultural tourism, the beach tourism, of course, which for a long time has been our main product. But there's also urban tourism. We can have urban tourism in Mombasa. There's ecotourism, what is commonly known as green tourism. And there are other historical sites that, of course, someone can develop a product by the name historical tourism theme or something related to that. So all these are areas and opportunities that lay themselves to innovation. The question now, final question that I would like to ask is, what can we do? What is the pathway to ensuring that these innovations that we can develop and adopt as coastal counties can be able to better our people's lives? One is in the budget process. The budgetary process that envisaged in the Public Finance and Management Act require consultation with our people, the people that we represent. Under this budgetary process, the law provides that as long as the citizens themselves say this is what we want to do, there's a potential that we can include a fund or develop products that can aim to promote innovation within our counties. So there's that window. We can support innovation. We can also, through the budgetary process, we can all support innovation. Through the commercial institutions that are there, they can generate some products, and we've heard about EcoBank. There are products that have been generated that can be able to support tourism, can be able to support innovations. We can also embrace a hybrid system. Another important thing for us to know and to move forward is for us to be able to measure success and share the lessons. The innovations that we make at the county level, the innovations that come up, do we have a forum where we can be able to share these lessons? Jabeic is a very important forum in my view. As I see it, it can promote openness and the ability for all of us to share the innovations that we have. Another important thing that I would like to emphasize and ask ourselves to think about is the promotion of teamwork. As it were, some innovations are best achieved when we collaborate and become a team. I see Jumuiya as an opportunity for us to promote that teamwork so that we can be able to share experiences and move forward together. So as I end my presentation, I want to call upon all of us and to say that it is possible through the budget processes for us to be able to lay some funds aside to promote innovations in the way we do our things. And those innovations need not to be expensive. What innovations are there in the way we generate our revenues? What innovations are there in the way we collect our own source revenue? That is a very important area that we can think about, because the potential of 15.5 billion shillings that we can generate from our own local sources is such an important basket that can go a long way in supporting our people. What innovations can we adopt in measuring the success of the various projects that we undertake and sharing lessons? Do we have a community of practices, a community of experts that can be able to share the lessons through to our people? How, as a team, create common understanding in the innovation and plans that we all have? So with those remarks, I would like to invite all of us to consider those, in review. I would call this one a call for action to be able to move together as we go forward. Thank you so much, and may God bless Jumuiya ya Kaunti za Pwani.
Thank you, Controller. When the Controller speaks, you need to give him all the time. But nevertheless, what he was talking about was very, very important things. I had 400 billion. I also had 15 billion. That on-source revenues and investments that we can make, we could catalyze whatever we get from the Treasury for us to make on-source revenues and income for people of about 15 billion. So that's the challenge of Jumuiya County za Pwani and the county governors who are here, the CCs of finance and economic planning. And I think what the controller is saying is that we can do it. And this is why we get to have these conversations, and that's why we keep on displaying this sign of changing the story, that we can't change the story. Because the resources that we have are so enormous. It is all for us to work together and know what we need to do. And I think much of the expertise, the partners are here, the expertise we have, the political leadership we have. So thank you so much, Controller, and we look forward for that partnership and guidance from you. I would like to move to one expert who is out in the US, I believe, the US or the UK, Mark Barash, and then we can take a small break. And Barash, a good 8 minutes if you can. I know you've been waiting there for a long time, but I know you're prepared. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Njamo. It's an honor to be in the presence of Your Excellencies, governors, and CEO Emmanuel Nzai, esteemed leaders, and I hope patient audience. I may run a little over those 8 minutes, and I apologize in advance. I wanted to say first how I came to start the Green World campaign, which has operated in this region on the coast since 2010. It was honestly a story of coincidence as much as conscientious commitment, and it was really a chance meeting with the great Wangari Maathai 30 years ago at the UN that planted the first seed. Dr. Maathai had described to me how, as a parasitologist, she had started out treating cattle disease, but eventually deduced that the root cause, literally, was the cutting of trees upstream. This caused erosion and silted the river and created stagnant pools that filled with breeding parasites from which the cattle would drink. She realized that to cure the cattle, she had to stop the tree cutting, which was itself a product of poverty and politics and ignorance and greed. She soon enough began to organize her famous grassroots movement of women tree planters, facing down all the obstacles and often violent opposition, and in that process, changing Kenya's environmental policies, political complexion, and status of women, among many other things. Her Billion Trees campaign alerted the entire world to the need for massive reforestation. Wangari was an example of one of the themes of this conference, regenerative transformation. Not content to just treat the symptoms, she looked beneath them and beyond them at systematic pathologies and possibilities, upstream and downstream, inputs and outputs, peering through the lens of people and planet, and aspiring to heal the whole system by supporting its healthiest parts and prioritizing the maximal unfolding of life itself. 1 million people in 160 countries. Its impact was intense, but ultimately fleeting. Some minds and hearts were changed, I imagine, but mostly the messages that the ice caps were going to start melting, that temperatures would perilously rise, that species would go extinct, that the fossil fuel industry was one of the chief villains, seemed to fall on deaf ears and caused every single sponsor to cancel. That the seed that Wangari had planted in me seemed to undergo a long germination, and looking back on it, surely factored into my decision to, with a staff of talented, dedicated, and idealistic young Kenyans, begin this organization that has now served 100 coastal communities, planted millions of trees, regenerated thousands of hectares of degraded land, provided eco-education to tens of thousands of students, offered thousands of farmers training in agroecology methods, sponsored local eco-enterprises, provided health services to young mothers, introduced appropriate technologies, and even established a voucher system to facilitate trade in impoverished communities, the Eco-Peso, some of you may have heard of. It's become clear over our decade of work that what we were doing was more than a collection of regenerative projects and a suite of holistic methodologies. We had, simply by setting out on an open pro bono path, aspiring to achieve the most authentic good according to what I think is the core regenerative algorithm, give more and take less. We'd evolved a powerful working model of a unique eco-social milieu I started simply calling the Regenerative Society. It seems to me that creating a more regenerative society is at the heart of our collective purpose here. With rivers drying up and climatologists predicting that Mount Kenya will be, in a mere 8 years, the first major glacier in the world to completely disappear, the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, has said that our current crisis requires, quote, transformational change at all levels, individual, communities, businesses, institutions, and governments. We must, they added pointedly, redefine our way of life. In the light of the need to instantiate such radical changes, incremental sustainability may remarked one investor, as long as corporate social responsibility initiatives aren't fundamentally core to a business, they're unlikely to ever scale or provide lasting solutions to critical challenges. The J. Walter Thompson Agency put it even more bluntly a few years ago. Doing less harm is no longer enough. The future lies in regeneration, to restore and replenish. This is not doom and gloom to my way of thinking, but a wake-up call. It's a mandate to chart a truly new future that places our civilization at the classic juncture expressed in a famous Chinese ideogram, crisis and opportunity. I want to quickly reflect on a few of these opportunities and on why I feel the coastal region, and indeed the nation of Kenya, could well become the world's first regenerative society, achieving ever greater prosperity while setting a bold example for the world. The frame of regeneration enables us to look holistically at food, agriculture, climate, land, health, and livelihood as an integrated nexus for systemic change. According to the UN FAO, transformative change in governance, education, and finance is needed for agroforestry to tackle the disastrous impacts of the global food system. The chemical-dependent monocrop green revolution that fed the world but polluted air and water and strip-mined the soil has faded markedly in luster. The time has come to foment a re-green revolution. To provide food for all without trashing the planet, says the UN FAO rapporteur, will require a massive, quote, agroecological transition for jute mallow, vegetable cowpea, African nightshade, spider plant, pumpkin leaves, and African kale, superseding the demand for sukuma wiki, spinach, and cabbage. Growing resilient old genome indigenous crops, these biodiverse perennial agriculture systems still supply the bulk of the world's food supply and have the power to heal degraded land, absorb carbon into restored organic matter, build back biodiversity of plants and animals, soil biota and pollinators, increase the nutrient density of the food we eat, reduce the need for pesticides and fertilizers, and create food forests that yield year-round crops, increasing farmers' income. We at Green World agree. After planting 200,000 moringa trees with our community partners, we're now in collaboration with Rutgers University, UC Davis, Hebrew University, JQuat, the JKP, and other Kenyan and global institutions, planning a large-scale biodiverse moringa moonshot in the coastal region to bring products derived from this drought-tolerant, protein-rich superfood tree and other African indigenous vegetables into large-scale supply chains that incentivize farmers to practice restorative methods on degrading land. Ultimately, we intend this to be a $50 million regenerative enterprise. Among many anticipated products are flour amendments derived from AIVs to blunt the impact of the Ukrainian wheat crisis, biofortification of everyday foods and children's porridge, which could eliminate protein energy malnutrition, nutraceuticals, including those thought to mitigate the comorbidity factors in COVID, and protein isolate. Note that the value of the global plant protein market at $29.4 billion in 2020 could surpass $162 billion by 2030, according to a Bloomberg intelligence report. Meanwhile, large international companies are responding to a growing demand for regeneratively sourced food. General Mills, for example, has declared all of its grains will be regeneratively sourced by 2030. Caring and Conservation International aim to transform 1 million hectares into reliable supply chains. And since regenerative methods help draw down atmospheric carbon into restored soil, crops, trees, and vegetation, farmers could also begin to access revenues from an emerging global carbon farming market. Could regenerative strategies transform the liability of Kenya's 40 million hectares of degraded land into an asset of carbon-absorbing soil organic matter? It's calculated that decarbonization and renewable energy will only get us halfway where we need to go. Meanwhile, the market for natural carbon solutions that will be required is slated to reach tens of billions of dollars by 2030, and by some estimates, hundreds of billions of dollars thereafter. There will also be opportunities in devising science-based, cost-effective methods to measure soil carbon using a combination of satellite remote sensing, ground truthing, artificial intelligence, and predictive algorithms. Only what can be measured can be monetized. Green World is looking at creating credits where eco-social co-benefits are packaged with documented increase in natural carbon storage, avoiding what could otherwise become a reductionist carbon credit shell game.
Mark,
Yes.
can we wrap up, please? A minute.
Yes, a minute. All right, well, a minute is simply the other areas that we're looking at are regenerative finance, regenerative culture, regenerative education, regenerative youth outreach, regenerative technology, and all of this is covered in much more detail in the 10 Pillars document. I was once asked for a formal definition of regeneration, and with apologies for awkward syntax, I came up with: regeneration fosters the self-healing and co-evolving capacity of natural systems and human communities to achieve progressive levels of dynamic, mutually reinforcing well-being.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate it so much. Again, it's always good to hear from a professor, an expert. Looking forward. We don't take it for granted. I'm really sorry we had to cut that short. That's a conversation you can take for half a day. But nevertheless, all those who are virtual, you can interact with Mark online. He's always very resourceful and always very responsive. So thank you so much. At this point, Nuhu, mimi nyamaze bwana.
Hello. Mpo? Najua tumbo zinatekerenya, midomo inalalamika, lakini subiri kidogo tu. Unajua Waswahili wanasema maji ya bahari hujaa kinyelenyele, yakipwa huwa ni vifijo, nderemo na vigelegele. Muda si mrefu mtapata vigelegele hapa. Lakini kwa sasa naomba msimame nyote kwa heshima. Kila mtu asimame tafadhali. Kila mtu asimame. Sikuambieni mkimbie, sikuambieni mcheze mpira. Hapa tuko hola. Hebu njoo dada kidogo. CS wetu yupo, katibu wa kaunti yupo, nataka kukuimbisheni wimbo wa Kipokomo. Leo. Haya, kuna salamu. Twende dada.
Habari zenu. Naomba munisaidie huko nyuma kuimba huu wimbo. Oi mwana, oi mwana, mama joke daima mpunga ndio wako wakuja unyamae. Pamoja. Oi mwana, oi.
Kishaunganisha hivyo inakuwa ndefu. Hebu pelekeni nusu robo.
Oi mwana, oi mwana,